Alright, so for the how useful question that you've got to do for your homework, we'll look at, first of all, the usefulness of source A. First thing to point out is it is an artist's impression. So you think about the type of source. Artist's impression in a cheap newspaper. So the idea of this is to entertain people, otherwise people wouldn't have bought the newspaper. So this whole scene of one police officer trying to hold back a mob might be slightly over-exaggerated. Although, our own knowledge, so you look at the provenance, talk about how it could, you don't know for sure it is exaggerated, but it could be exaggerated. But you think of our knowledge, and we know that in 1886 there was a big protest in Trafalgar, and there's a problem with protests at the time. The one in Trafalgar, which if you've done your timeline you'd know, got out of hand and things were damaged. And this source seems to suggest, if we're thinking of the effectiveness of the police, that the police force were struggling to control crowds, especially, well, crowds who look a bit angry, like this fella down here. And we know this from our own knowledge, which is just there, which is used in your living graph. So you've got that. Other bits that you might have, well, you might have that you know that Charles Warren resigned from the police force around about this time. So you could say from your knowledge, well, he resigned because he didn't seem to be able to control things, and this seems to show that things are out of control. What else could you have? I'm not really. I think we've covered a lot of our knowledge there, and we've covered the content of the provenance of the source, that it's for entertainment, that it's probably exaggerated or could be exaggerated. Don't say it is exaggerated. Now on to source B. Right, from the Times newspaper. Well, it's useful in the way that it suggests that the police took additional methods. Used additional methods to capture Jack the Ripper, which you will know from listening to this video is true. You won't necessarily know from what we did today. The problem is, it seems to kind of suggest that the police were doing the right things, and it kind of seems to suggest that the police failed in connection with the Whitechapel murders, but it seems to suggest that the police were doing the right thing and just were unlucky in not finding the murderer at the time. And this is the clue here. It's read mainly by the upper classes. They might be more inclined to turn the blame away from the police and onto the people, because they're the ruling classes, the upper classes. It is useful because it seems to suggest that the effectiveness of the police was affected by people in the area, and we know about that. People in the area affected law and order. You know this from some of the things that you've read about, Fenians and riots and things in your living graph. But what have we got? So that's a bit of old knowledge that we've got. What else have we got? Well, source B is from a national newspaper, intended to inform its readers about police measures being taken. So it seems to tell us it's useful if we're looking at police effectiveness, because it's telling us that police effectiveness, if it's in a Times newspaper, is a national issue, that everybody's looking at it. But of course it's a newspaper, it's designed to sell. It's designed to, it has to reflect the sort of opinions of the readers, the upper classes, but it's also got to be entertaining, otherwise people won't want to buy and read the paper. So there's some things to think about there. Now, you've also got to do source A. Study source A to do question B, which requires you to study source A and follow up some details from source A. So you're going to choose the details that you could choose to follow up. I'm not going to make it so easy as specifically tell you what I would do. It's 4 marks. So if you mess this up, it's not going to be catastrophic for your exam. So have a go. But you've got to pick out something from this that you go, if I was a historian, I'm wondering about this, I'm going to follow that up. And then you think, what question would you ask about whatever it is you would want to investigate further that you see in this source? You've got to think, what type of source could I use? And if you think of your booklets, it's got a list of the different sources that you could potentially use. And then the last question is, so if you use the source, that question there is like, what sort of information would you get from the source that you could use? So again, that information should be in the table that you used last week, and that's it really. So if this is a question of having a first go, don't worry if you're a little bit stuck. That's understandable. It's to be expected really, because if it was easy, everybody would get grade 9s and the exam paper would be stupid and pointless. And it's not. It's going to test you. It's going to make you think. It's going to make you struggle with the information. Otherwise, the examiners won't be able to differentiate between who's what grade. So don't worry about struggling. Hope the video's useful, and what we did in lesson today should have been as well.